You believe that? And go ahead and as we open our hey, First Lady, how you doing?
Hey, First Lady.
I was thinking about you today. Just want to let you know that I love and appreciate you and so proud of you and how God has just opened up those doors are just tremendous.
Mm,
God is faithful.
swinging them open.
Uh-huh.
Yes,
Yes.
he is.
Um Thank you for sharing. She's always sharing. That's why she has those big
He's
returns.
faithful.
She has no
Hmm.
problem giving, and that's why your returns are so big.
Hmm.
Pamela, go ahead, and then we'll take it. We'll take it from there.
So, thank you guys for joining us, and we appreciate you coming on and bringing some friends, your sister, your brother, your cousins. This is Authentic Talk Podcast. We welcome you in as our family. This is a podcast where you have two therapists, and we come from similar backgrounds with a twist of faith base as well. And we're wanting to give you some practical tools as well as some spiritual guidance on relationships, mental health concerns, women empowerment, manhood, womanhood, all of those great things. And so, if you are on here and you have questions and you're a little shy, you definitely can DM us before our lives. Or if you are not shy and you want to ask a question while we are actually on live, please do place your question in the chat, and we would try our best to answer it during the live. If it's some information that we don't have at that time, we would definitely get back to you on our next live. And so I hope I didn't miss anything, but Cheryl, go ahead and chime in if it's something that you want to say.
Thank you, First Lady. She just saying how we're doing a great job on the podcast. We know it's all about God, and we thank you for the sisterhood. And First Lady, if you're on,
Yeah,
you can just write some comments on First Facebook that we can any questions you have, then we can see it on Facebook, and so we can
yeah,
situated doing that. But we do want to welcome
yeah,
book family, YouTube family, and we just want to thank everyone for
everyone.
mhm, just for viewing, the audience viewing afterwards. We're getting high views on the clips that we are submitting
Mhm.
in, and we know that's the grace of God, nothing that we do, but we're just used by God, and we're very appreciative of that. We thank you. I've been hearing a lot of men are watching it. One man in Delaware said, "Oh, I missed the show." So we really appreciate that on that behalf. Um, First Lady, if you can just write down the date, I think it's Fireproof. Am I saying it right? The conference that's coming up,
Mhm.
Oc-
Mhm.
uh,
Fireproof 7.
years. My goodness, and I don't know the
Mhm.
date, but if you can type that in, I know we've been posting that. Um, um, we would like to post that for you, but and she just finished an awesome conference in Las Vegas, Henderson, Las Vegas. We commend
Sure
you
did.
and for that. Know the anointing
Mhm.
I was there. So, and our prayers were with you. Welcome our
Mhm.
Miss Denise, and all those are joining in. So right now we're actually just to share with people, but we're going to get started. Let me do the recap today. The topic for today is Infidelity Part 2, the aftermath.
Mhm.
You have to see Part 1 to really get the gist of Part 2, so you can go on my profile, excuse me, Cheryl at underscore masterpiece women. But what we did
Mhm.
last week, Pamela and I, we defined infidelity. We really had a good time talking on that
We
yesterday.
did. We did. It's a tight but right topic.
Right topic. And then
Yeah.
we defined infidelity. We talked about the portals of infidelity,
Yes.
different avenues that it comes into people's lives that cause them to do that act of infidelity, the act of being an adulteress, the act of cheating on, the act of having an affair. Those are all the terms of that, okay?
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
we talked about the residues of infidelity. We talked about oh, I got the defined infidelity. We said is unfaithful in marriage. We talked about the violation of marital vows. That's the world view. But we said the violation of the covenant. That's the biblical
That's
views.
correct.
We talked the breach of trust, sacrificing the marital commitment that was given to me, the marital covenant for the sake of gratifying one's lustful desire or desire.
Mhm.
Infidelity, bottom line, is the byproduct of self-centeredness. And then we talked about the types of infidelity I know there are probably more, but we only talked about 3. That was the hidden infidelity. That's like we talked about King David. Wasn't that a
Mhm.
beautiful? It's a beautiful story.
Yeah.
Break things down, and we just let you know
Mhm.
whatever happened in the Bible days back then. It's nothing new under the sun. It still happened today. Now now. We talk about the hidden infidelity is covering one's track. Open
Mhm.
infidelity, not open, just plain open. This is what I'm going to do.
Mhm.
And we talk
Mhm.
about the emotional infidelity. And we just talked, and Pamela really broke that down how if you're just talking, friends with somebody and you marry, you're talking to them on the phone, and there's
Mhm.
that stimulation there, or you're talking inappropriate, that is a form of infidelity. We even
Mhm.
came to the agreement that there's social media
That's
infidelity.
correct. I was
Mhm.
waiting for you to say
You know I
it.
don't say
A
that.
lot of social media
Uh,
infidelity.
mhm. DMing each other, messaging each other,
Yes.
cute saying or whatever the case. That's
Yes.
that's a form of social infidelity, and a lot of people don't see it as that way. I'm just, no, we're just playing. No, you just don't play.
Yeah.
So there, you just don't. You
I'm sorry, y'all. I am so giggly
that
tonight, but
that's okay. We gonna make her giggle. We gonna break this down, but she gonna break down some stats in a moment. Okay.
it's Cheryl's fault. It's Cheryl's fault. It's like, no, you don't play.
You don't. This
No
is.
social media infidelity, doing those fires,
Mhm.
emojis and all
Uh,
that, and
even
hearting.
and you said even if you're looking in somebody's eyes for a long
Yes.
time.
Mhm. You can lust with your eyes.
Uh,
Mhm.
so that's a
Mhm.
form of infidelity or leading. That's that portal leading into. Then we
Yeah.
talked about the portal of infidelities, which is one was intergenerational transmission, referred to
Mhm.
transfer of individual ability, traits, behaviors, and outcomes from parents to their child. So that could be
Mhm.
a generation. In other words, that's a generational pattern that can take
Mhm.
place.
Mhm.
Then we talk. Initially, there's emotional connection, then the physical with someone outside the marriage, thinking that the grass is greener on the other side
Mm.
where you had green grass, now you have turf,
You
okay?
had some pretty green
Uh,
grass, but you thought it was
I
yellow.
got that fake grass, uh-huh. And then we brought some statistics in that was showing, they said still men
Mhm.
participate cheating on their wife higher than women, but there's an age gap from the age 19 to 28. Women are higher than men. Then I said that women are more cerebral, the way they think,
Mhm.
of
Yeah.
and
Planned out.
planned out how they're going to be
Mhm.
to their husband. Where men are just more open about it. It's a physical,
Impulsive.
impulsive about it. It's an excitement of what,
Mhm.
wow.
Mhm. Reactive. Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
then we talked about the other portals, insecurity, that I'm not good enough, so I might as well fool around with somebody else that I can be on they can be on my level. So
Mhm.
you have all those excuses that are taking place. Then
Mhm.
to end it up, we have the residues of infidelity, which is grief. It's because it's like a grieving process, and we talked about
Mhm.
that. Distrust, violation of the covenant, disturbing
Mhm.
the emotional and mental tone of the family, because not only do you affect the family, R.C. Blake said it has an impact on the constitution of the family. And I thought that was
Mhm.
real deep. And
Mhm.
then we talked about, even we even went deep, Pamela, by saying how you forcing the children to accept the new dynamic that is the
Mm.
byproduct of an adulterous relationship. You forcing kids to call this person such and such. You forcing them to make it right where it was illegally done, okay,
Yeah.
and so on and so on. But tonight, and we're gonna have Pamela start off. But tonight, we're gonna look at the transformation slash healing process from both from both angles, from the person who was unfaithful to his spouse but desired to change. Listen to me carefully. For the person who was unfaithful to his spouse, his or her spouse, but has a desire to change, and number two, for the individual who was cheated on. But Pamela, before we even get started with this, somebody said this. Um, they said they said they walk away feeling, the person who DM talked or whatever, they walked away feeling that only men are narcissistic. Could you please break that down? Are there women who are narcissistic too?
Oh, yes. So I want to be clear. They walked away from the
No,
relationship.
walked away from our podcast last week thinking that it's just only men that are narcissistic.
Oh, no. No, no. There are narcissistic women. Yeah, that label is just not only with men. That crosses over into women. And the same as what I shared last week in regards to a narcissistic man, it's the same traits. It's all about me. There is no remorse, no empathy, no, they don't care if it's an impact on you. They're gonna do what they want to do and when they want to do it, and you can go in front of them and cry and say this is wrong and you shouldn't do this, and in their mind they don't see anything wrong with it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's not carried on just by men only. This, it can happen with anyone.
Mm-hmm. And Pamela, on your end, make sure you look at Facebook and make sure that because somebody said they're on Facebook now and they are, typing us. We don't want to miss anything. And someone said
Okay.
there are definitely narcissistic women also, and that
Yes, it is.
so true. Um,
Mhm.
but what we want to talk about now, we want to get into the healing process. And Pamela, I said one is a transformation process for
Mhm.
the person who's participating in infidelity. It has to be a whole
Mhm.
transformation process. And the
Mhm.
person who was cheating on, it has to be a healing process because of
Mhm.
what they have felt, the emotions, the all that, the trauma, whatever they went through because of this. There's a healing process that's taken place.
Mhm.
Won't you go ahead and talk? Then I'll add on what I need to.
Yeah. So it just depends on if the person decides to stay in the marriage. If
Mhm.
you decide to stay in your marriage, then you guys have to both come together and talk about what actually took place. But I want to pause for a moment to say this. If you decide to stay in your marriage, whether it's the man that was cheated on or the woman that was cheated on, you have to forgive the person for stepping outside of the marriage. You can't drag it on and continues to keep throwing it up in their face. However, it's not going to be a light switch type of approach where you're going to get over the infidelity. It's going to take some time. I heard one woman say it took her 10 years to get over, her husband's infidelity against her. Somebody else's timeline might be 3 years. It just depends. But when you make a decision to step outside of your marriage, you cannot expect that person to heal overnight. It's going to take some time. And so the apology and forgiveness is going to have to take place, and then also you guys are going to have to recommit,
Mm-hmm.
sit down and talk about what's going to be your recommitment to one another. Sit down and have that communication piece. So that's the huge piece that a lot of people miss when you do decide to stay together, the communication piece. And then you say, well, they talking about it over and over what I did, or they keep bringing it up. Well, because you guys haven't thoroughly talked about it. So you have to let that person know how that affair took place, why the affair took place, and who did the affair take place with. You
Mm-hmm.
have to be fully open and candid about everything that took place. If you went to the Marriott on whatever street, you have to be candid about everything that took place, because if you don't, those conversations are going to come back over and over again. And in order to move forward, you have to be open about that. You have to allow that person to grieve. Remember, I just said it's not a certain time stamp. In 6 months this person is going to be over it. It may take them a while, and you have to be open to the fact that they may struggle some days, but you guys are working together and not against one another if you're deciding to stay in the marriage. Also, you have to go back and think about, okay, why did this affair take place? It's not really about the affair. It's got to be some kind of problem, some kind of underlying problem or problems that has occurred to for the reason of this affair to take place. You still got to take ownership that you are the person that stepped out and be responsible for your action, but there is still something that's happening within the relationship. Was it a lack of love? Was the person denying somebody of something? Was the person is a person struggling within their own self, feeling like they are lacking something within themselves? Is it insecurities? Whatever it may be, you guys have to be transparent about it and talk about that in order for you to get to the reconnection and acceptance stage, when you guys are coming back and okay, this happened, we moving forward, we're forgiving, we want to work on this, and we want to rebuild our relationship.
Mm-hmm.
If you decide to not stay in the situation, then you're going to have to, when you exit out of that relationship, you are going to have to take some time to yourself to not have any communication with your partner, and so you can heal and kind of process what took place without making quick decisions. And then once you get yourself together and you process that, then you can start making a decision of what you think is going to be best for you.
Mhm. Well, let me go back a little bit, which all that is perfect, but I want to go back to this. Um, um,
Yes.
why some people, let's be real about why what you said. If you decide to go back, and then I'm gonna emerge it's the same way. Why people some
Okay.
don't go back is if the third party is still involved. Everybody got to remember that third party that's
Mm-hmm.
still involved. If the third
Mm-hmm.
party is still involved, even as a therapist, and they come in with
Mm-hmm.
actions the third party is involved, still involved,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't get involved because what happened is this. Follow me carefully. If the third party is still involved, by that man or woman having an adulterate relationship, you have created another soul tie. And what
Mm-hmm.
happened is you have now all these soul ties. Say if it's a man that had an affair with another woman, and then the wife, then you have two soul ties of two women that are in competition with each other. Okay,
Yes.
and they're struggling. I'm the one. No, I'm the one. And see, those soul ties
Mm-hmm.
are important because it's not just because that man had. People just think just because they had a physical contact with the person, that's it.
Mm-hmm.
They fail to realize that their mind and emotions were also involved. And so
Ye-
that is so important, and people bypass that. No, because now you got competition, you have two soul ties. If the third party is involved, then you can forget it. Some people may not say I can't handle this because I just cannot trust that person. And
Yes.
and it's okay. And the person who had the affair, might feel like, oh, I really want them, or what. They can't trust you. You can't force anybody to trust you. You can't
Mm-mm.
put pressure on them. You can't say, I'm going to know if they don't trust you and they can't handle. I never forget a situation. A person that I know, her husband, well, well, let's put it this way: he had an affair, and it was for a while. And she tried, but then she said, I just can't trust him, and I can't handle it.
Mm-hmm.
And some people just
Mm-hmm.
can't handle it. And if a person,
Mm-hmm.
and then here's another one: if you with somebody and if they do not see anything wrong with that
With
affair,
the ends.
uh,
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
that's ingrained in their nature. Let me say it again. Somebody
Yeah.
put that in. That's they're ingrained
Mm-hmm.
in their nature, and they're
Mm-hmm.
blaming the other person for their behavior. Which I don't want to go too far because these are part of different part of the healing. But
And that's typical. You're right, Cheryl,
mhm,
everything you said, because honestly, if there is a third person,
mhm.
you can't even get to the forgiveness part.
Oh
You,
no,
you can't you can't reconnect. It's not going to happen.
it's that, yeah, that only that just because the third why somebody write this down, because the third party still has influence.
Hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
third party still has influence. One,
Hmm.
and the third party it did something to draw you in to that
Hmm.
act. So they
Yeah.
still have that stronghold, maybe physically, emotionally, mentally. They still have that stronghold that cause you to lust and desire them. And but the key thing is there is competition. There's like a tug of war between
Hmm.
soul ties, and it just
Mm-mm.
it won't work. It just
It's not going to work.
mm, mm,
No,
it
it's not going to work.
uh, uh,
Yeah.
so
No.
Pamela, I think what we're going to do, and let you know, and you talk, and I'll add in, is that we're going to look at what standing in the spite of both couples decide person who was unfaithful. Okay, we're going to talk about the transformation, the healing process, and
Mm-hmm.
said the transformation process is for the person who committed who was cheating because it had
Mm-hmm.
side out, and the
Mm-hmm.
person who cheated on, it's a healing process. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so I'm gonna let you talk on that, and I'm gonna add on to that. Oh, no, this is what I want to ask you, Pamela, because you really good on that timeline. The person who's unfaithful, and it's a
Mm-hmm.
wh- why is it so important for them to look at the timeline for them, just the person who was doing the cheating?
Well, be for the person, the cheater, to look at the timeline.
Why is it
Uh,
important? You therapeutically, they need to look at a timeline.
Okay. So my thought process on it, from a therapist perspective and also from someone that has experienced, infidelity, that timeline for them, they have to realize that if you have been in this relationship with this person outside of your marriage for X amount of time, that's the stamp on. It may take that woman, let's say if you was with that person for 9 months. I'm just making up a story. You can't expect that she's going to be over this situation in 1 month. It may take her 2 and 3 years after this 9 month relationship. I'm hoping I'm hitting on what you're talking about. If I'm not, you can chime in.
Well, I was talking about a person who who's has an affair. I was
Uh-huh.
a timeline back in childhood.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
oh, okay. Yes.
yeah.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm with you now.
Lord help her. Go ahead.
Okay, help me because I'm on the ninth hour, but it's okay. So think about it this way. Remember, you were talking about just a little while ago, and you were talking about the last week we were talking about how the intergenerational transmission. When I think about that, you have to think about who was in front of that person as they were growing up. Did they see an uncle have several women? Did they see their dad? Did they see their mom have several men? That could be their timestamp in when they saw that. Or sometime you could come from a healthy home and you may get out, grow up, and you may see other guys, your friends, have a lot of women, and that's their timestamp to where that's their impression in their mind, like, oh, okay, that's how you do it. You're supposed to go out and have, several women, or a woman. Oh, okay, I'm not only supposed to just date only one man, I'm supposed to date several men because such and such said this is how you do it, And then we also had someone that we both know that came on that said that it was a competition with him, and his brothers when he was younger, that who was going to get the amount of phone numbers. So that timeline is when I guess what you want to say, when they were first
Impressed.
exposed to it.
Mhm,
Yeah, they were first
mhm.
exposed to it, and it just stood with them. Now here's the thing: we all can see a lot of things. Me as a woman, I can see a lot of things and say, hey, okay, I saw such and such, do this in relationships, but that's up to me if I want to take on that same stance. If I
Mhm,
don't want to take on that same stance, I don't have to. But if I want to do it, I can do it, because you still kind of know right from wrong
mhm,
in
mm,
the midst of when that timestamp is happening.
mhm.
So it just depends on what was in front of them. That's my,
And you
my take on it.
and you are right, because that timeline, I see what in agreement with you, because
Yeah.
they saw that automatically, that set the standard for his or her.
Hmm. Hmm.
Everybody have to forget.
Yeah.
So, or if they get older in life and see their friends doing, then what happen? Association bring assimilation rather than break
Hmm.
off from those, because no, that's not what I want to do. But you stay in it,
Hmm.
and when you
Hmm.
stay in it, and then you laugh about the, because with how they used to say, if you grin, you in. You know what I'm saying? And that
Oh my
could, well, you know what I'm talking, and so it can have an influence on you.
God. It could.
It
Hmm.
could. It's so, man, it's
Yeah.
okay, isn't she, or he or she, isn't she cute, or
Mhm.
whatever the
Or
case.
it's gonna be all right. They're not gonna know nothing about it.
Mhm. So it can set a standard for his or her morals, and then
Hmm.
also, I think it's important, Pamela, is when you talk about the timeline and when they were exposed to it, what thoughts and emotion embraced were they
Hmm.
embraced when they saw that act?
Interesting. You
Uh,
know what? I would say that it depends on their age,
mhm,
because a little kid, they may not quite understand it. But if you are in middle school or high school, you're going to fully understand what's
mm,
going on, because
mhm,
you do have some kids that are, let's say, for instance, they are not even in high school and they already would have a conversation. And I've heard some say, oh, well, I just make them think I'm their boyfriend, and they're really not, but they make them think they're their boyfriend just to keep them. Now these are young people, we're not even talking about adults.
mhm,
So their timeline is already stamped, and they already have that impression that they can play games in a relationship at a
mm,
young age.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then we also talked about is that now this is just a transformation for the person, man or female, okay,
Mhm.
that-
Mhm.
who has been unfaithful in a relationship, but they want to make this work because they don't want to lose their mate and they don't
Yes.
family. So you have to
Mhm.
go back in the timeline and see when did this take place, which stage in your life
Mhm.
and what was happening in the stage of your life and when did you see this and so forth. And then number two, I said you have to eradicate the old identity because
Yes, you do.
the identity that you have on the inside. See, this is the issue, Pamela. A lot of people live from the outside in where you supposed to live from the inside out. Okay.
Mhm.
And when you live from the inside out, you're always making adjustments so that you can live properly on the outside. Okay. And
Mhm.
so they have to know how to eradicate the old identity, which is infidelity. And somebody say,
Mhm.
type that in, eradicate the old identity, if you would please, which is
Change the behavior.
change,
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
rebuild a new identity.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
or so that means you have to make up. See, first of all, let's back up. First of all, you have to have a will to want to change. If you don't
You
have
have
a
to want to.
if you don't have a will to change, then you can just forget it. Okay. It,
Forget it.
it has to take a will. Like, I'm tired of living like this. This is not the best. I have a good man. I have a good woman. I have a beautiful family. And how dare I'm
Mhm.
gonna let somebody come in and destroy that? So you have to have the will to change. Then talk
Mhm.
about Pamela perfectly explained about the timeline. Then you have to
Mhm.
eradicate the old identity.
You do.
You can't keep
Mhm.
operating from the same identity because it'll keep you doing the same thing, operating the same patterns. And
Yeah.
then you have to rebuild your new identity is commitment. Now, Pamela,
Mhm.
this I thought was very interesting. What came to me today, doing the therapeutic process, you have to have that person define how do they define commitment.
Yes, it's very important.
It is so important
Mhm.
to know how do you define
Yes.
it.
And when I think about that, when I'm counseling couples, I always tell them to go back to the table and talk about the foundation. So there is a crack
Mm-hmm.
when there's
Mm-hmm.
problems in the commitment, there's a crack. Go back to the foundation piece and discuss, what does that commitment look like to you? Does that mean that you guys are keeping your promise of that covenant? Does that look like, you guys are open to the vow being broke and you okay with that? One person can do this, or we both can be in an open relationship. You have to go back and discuss, what does that commitment mean to you, and how are you guys going to move forward with that commitment. That commitment can also mean that, hey, we're going to have, after we're talking about after an affair has taken place, the commitment can also look like, okay, we're going to have each other's passwords to each other's phone, because the cheating could have started with the phone, you
Mm-hmm.
know and some may say, oh no, I don't want to do that, let's break my privacy. This is the part that you have to go through to rebuild that trust within that relationship. It's not that you're breaking, I mean, your privacy is being it's not that you're not having any privacy, but this is how you reassure your husband or your wife that no foolishness is going to take place, with other things as well.
Right. And but but also, Pam, I was looking more so is that if this person who have committed infidelity, they came in by themselves, that we need to ask them how do they define commitment to see where they are at. What
Mm.
self their
Hmm.
definition of commitment, and then help them to redefine it if it's not just right.
Hmm.
Help them. Don't tell
Yeah.
them what, but help them to redefine them. It says
Hmm.
transparent on all
On
levels.
all levels,
Right.
yes.
But we haven't got to the point when we bring them together. We're just saying this is individual. I want to do individual as we before we bring them together as a group, because if we
Hmm.
just as a group, okay, if individual you can work on yourself, but we're gonna bring you together after things take place, because sometimes you have to be real.
Hmm.
One person may not be ready to come in. You can't force them. So
Hmm.
say for instance
That makes sense.
if that man or woman wants to change, that one who was cheating,
Yes.
then I'm going to work with them and I'm going to do this. Let's change your identity. Let's get your definition of commitment. Let's at least get that
Hmm.
in the process. So when that other spouse decide they want to come in, then they'll be able to
Mhm.
explain to them, this is what I've learned, this is what I have changed, and we come together now to create a solid
Yes.
identity of oneness, if that makes sense.
Mhm. That makes sense.
Mm,
Yeah.
uh,
Mhm.
and then the next thing Pamela was talking about, what words, and somebody write this down, what words, thoughts, emotions, action have supported the act of cheating on your spouse?
Mm.
What words? What word? See, words are so important because, see, like I told you, words what produce thoughts, and thoughts affect your
Mhm.
emotions, and your emotions affect your feelings, and your feelings dictate to your behavior. So, what words? Because a lot of people use words loosely, when they're in that act. So, what words have you been putting
Mhm.
out there
Mhm.
that makes you watch, Pam, make you even more attracted to that third party?
Yeah.
Uh
Well, you have to think about it. Is anything that you're sneaking to do is going to seem like interesting and exciting, you
huh.
know? And
Hmm.
so these words, or these are not going to be any words that you haven't heard before. So why are you
Hmm.
taking off? Why are you
Hmm.
surprised by it? Or why are you so quick to do some things that is very hurtful based off of some words? And so
Hmm.
that's still some inner work that that person need to work on, because anybody can come by and say to you, sure, oh, you're beautiful. That doesn't mean that you're going to go and step out of your marriage. You
Hmm.
get what I'm saying?
Okay.
Because you know within yourself that you're beautiful. It
Hmm.
doesn't, you don't need anyone to come and tell you you're beautiful
Hmm.
to make you like, oh, okay, I'm gonna do this. No, you already know you're beautiful,
Hmm.
and you still gonna, you get what I'm saying? You still
Okay.
gonna make a
Right.
solid
Right.
decision,
Right.
or you gonna stay on track. Just like if it was me, I can use my own self. Just because someone say that I might be attracting or whatever, that doesn't mean that I am gonna be gullible and fall for everything. So you got to still
Hmm.
have some type of how should I say, self control.
Hmm. You do, Pam, and you do, Pamela, because you have to think about it. A person didn't become, didn't do infidelity overnight. It had to be a
No,
thought.
that's already in them. Yeah.
It had to be a thought, a word. See, people think
Mhm,
people become, say, some people think they become a drug addict overnight. It was a
mhm.
thought. It was
It
a
was a
thought.
thought. Yeah.
Words
Well,
produce thoughts and affect them. It was a thought.
yeah. Let me correct myself. I don't want anyone to think that I'm saying that this infidelity was already in. They thought about it, because it doesn't always happen like that.
Hmm.
Sometimes infidelity happens way along down the line because of a reason. But that's what I mean. Like, is like you said, Shirley, it's a thought that popped in their mind. They start thinking about it, and
Entertaining
you
the thought.
feed it, you entertain it.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm, and then
Mhm.
and all those things, and then it supports that.
Yes, it is. It's a pro they said infidelity is a process. I'm sorry,
It's a
Cheryl.
Yeah, no, you're right. Infidelity is a process,
It
but so
is.
people have to realize,
Mhm,
oh well, this happened over. No, it didn't. You had to think about it. You had to entertain
yeah,
it, and then you
mhm,
had the words to match it, the emotions. You used the canvas of your imagination. You saw yourself, or he or she or whatever the case may be,
mhm,
and then it became an act. So
mhm,
you have to go really, when the person who has committed that an affair and they want this marriage to work, they're going to have to seek therapy and really sit down and go through this.
mhm,
It's a transformation. You being transformed from the inside out. And the reason why I say that, Pamela, because I wrote this down, trees of infidelity has been
mhm,
planted on the inside of you. And you said, Cheryl, what do you mean by that? Trees of infidelity is on the inside of a person. Every time a person engaged in adulterous act, they are watering that tree and they're making their roots deeper. Okay,
mhm,
and so these are trees that are blocking your identity, the true identity of how you should be. And so
mhm,
people have to realize. And then the fruit is the physical part, your actions and
mhm.
so forth. And so you have to go in there, and going to therapy, you're gonna have to cut that tree from the root.
Yeah.
And someone said to me, they said, and it can be a generational thing. It could be the seeds that were planted that way, or how
Mhm,
you saw someone do something. And someone
mhm,
said this. They said, Cheryl, just because somebody may have a root of infidelity, it's a generational thing. They don't have to take. They don't have to participate in it. They said something like, even though my father
mhm,
was in an adulterous relationship, that person,
mhm.
I made a commitment that that was something that I wasn't going to do. So
Mm-hmm.
listen to me very careful. Just because a family member did it in the past, your
Mm-hmm.
father or your mother, but you make a quality decision, that's not going to be part of me. I make a commitment to love myself, and when I love, see, that's the whole thing. When you love yourself, then you be able to love the one that you're with. And so I want to
Mm-hmm.
emphasize. I want to walk
Mm-hmm.
away. So well, I did this because of da da da. Now that's not true. So that is,
Mm-hmm.
but that infidelity tree that is on the inside of you for the person who committed, you're going to have to cut that tree down from the roots. So you got to stop
Mm-hmm.
watering. You have to stop
Yeah.
talking. Pepper, you even have to stop talking to that third part. That third party thing is,
You have to cut them out.
ooh,
You
that,
have to end it,
oh
and
God.
you have to cut it out. And I'm not saying being mean about it, but you have to end it. If you want to stay in your marriage, you
Mm-hmm.
have to completely stay away from that person. No communication, no going around,
Mm-hmm.
nothing that remind you of that person. I don't care if you guys have a bump in the road and you mad one night. You can't say, "Oh, you know what? That's why I'm gonna do this," or "I'm gonna go back." You can't do that,
Mm-hmm.
because then all you're doing, everything that you guys have worked on, you
Mm-hmm.
go right back from to zero, and you got to work back on it again when you keep going back and forth. And that's what you were talking about earlier, Cheryl, when they are just it's in them,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Mhm, mhm. And, and you have to keep in mind, and somebody might wanna write this down, is that
Mhm.
a tree, and people say, "What do you mean by," because these are
They
seeds that have been,
grow,
they
yeah.
they grow
Hmm.
and they
Those
produce
branches
fruits,
grow.
and those
Hmm.
fruits, determine your actions. So follow me, and there's some people have been having
Hmm.
trees in there for 10, 15, 20, 30 years of infidelity,
I
and
mean,
they have taken
yes.
deep root, and it's hard for them to break away. Someone had told me
Hmm.
today that they know somebody that has been was in adulterous relationship with somebody for 10 years. And it's the hardest thing to break away
Hmm.
from that. But here's the key thing, something that came to me today: a tree will dictate what you will produce.
Mm. Well, that's why you have to watch the what is it, fruits of the spirit.
You
You have
do.
to pay attention. You
Uh,
have to study your person that you're with. Because when
mhm,
you're studying them, you're not studying them to catch them in a lie. You're
mhm,
not studying them to say, okay, they up to something.
mhm.
No, you're studying that person. And so as you're dating them before you even decide to marry them, you will see these certain things that pop out. And hopefully, if you are the one that experienced infidelity and you didn't decide to stay, you will learn from that situation. Don't be sad about it too long, but you'll learn from the situation.
Uh,
It's not too long. You don't want to stay stuck because you have that beautiful person that's waiting for you to come
yeah.
along in your life, and you don't want to miss out on that
Hmm.
opportunity to be with that person. I'm excited about my future, so
You know.
I am not stuck, but I don't want you to be stuck either. You might have experienced infidelity like I did, but it doesn't define
No, it
you. You
doesn't.
move, you pick up the pieces, and you get yourself together and you do what it is that you need to do that's healthy for you to get past the infidelity and feel the pain, but
Mm,
don't stay there. Don't numb it. Don't work around the pain. Working around meaning like, oh, I'm gonna quickly get in a relationship. Oh, I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna start going out, or oh,
mhm.
I'm gonna do that. You're working around the pain and you're not properly healing. Work through the pain so you can properly heal, so you can go on down and meet the person that you are supposed to be destined to be with.
Right. And somebody said if there is a third party, the root of infidelity remains, and it
It
does.
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 It
And
does.
and it really does. And then say for instance, if it doesn't work and you decide to go to that third party,
Mhm.
keep in mind there is hellish in that relationship because
Yes.
here let me break it down to you this way. This is how my mom used to tell me: anything that was not started right, it won't end right.
They say how you get them, how you lose them.
Uh-huh, 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 go through and beyond it. Yeah, and so
Yes.
that's to keep in mind. Don't let nobody say, "Oh, we have a perfect marriage." No, because
Mhm.
somebody's gonna be throwing something in somebody's face, and then you still have to, if you have children, you have to see them. So everything is not beautiful. Because somebody had called me and say, one of the kids had told them, "Oh, they be arguing a whole lot," and this is the person they had they had infidelity taking place.
Mhm.
But don't think it's perfect on the other side.
Oh, no. No. It might present itself as being perfect because in that's how the enemy trick you. the enemy will trick you and make you think what you have at home is all like, oh, it's horrible. Is this person don't do that, that person don't do that. And then when you get out of it,
Mm-hmm.
then you'll be thinking like, what in the world did I do? Why did I make that decision? You'll be kicking yourself,
Mm-hmm.
behind the decision that you made. So you don't let just don't let the enemy trick you.
Right.
That's just what it boiled down to. Don't let the enemy trick you.
Okay, now we're still on the
The
transformation.
healing.
The transformation for the one who get the triggers connected to infidelity. Now, if we think about, you got to recognize what are those triggers that cause me or desire for me to have uh,
That's right.
to have an affair. You have to recognize your triggers and be disciplined
Mhm,
to recognize them and to eradicate them, to resist them, to do
mhm,
what you need to do. See, that's why I'm saying,
mhm,
and I said something, even when people try to do things on the outside to discipline, I won't do this, then
mhm,
you are putting yourself in a position to regress. That's why you
mhm,
have to go from
mhm.
the inside out rather than the outside in. I hope somebody's listening to me very carefully.
Yes.
You have to change on the inside. You have to have the will. I'm talking to somebody
Mhm,
specifically. Don't beat yourself up if you make a decision, and if your wife or husband going to give you another chance, don't be
mhm.
prideful. Say, "Well, I don't need to go to counseling. Wo-
Go.
Work on yourself because your mate already said, I'm not going, you work on you right now, then we'll come together." And they have that right to say
Exactly.
that. And
Yes.
go through the transformation process and
Mhm,
be real, like, well, I'm not able to change. If you're not able to change and you want to keep doing it, then leave that person alone until you just leave them alone.
mhm. Yeah.
Don't take them on the ride with you as you be lustful.
The emotional roller coaster if you know you're not ready.
So you
Mhm.
your triggers, Pam, what do you think are some of the triggers for a person who have committed infidelity? What's some triggers you think?
Oh, yeah, I couldn't wait to get to that part.
Wow. Wow.
It is just as simple as this. If you are a woman and you say your trigger may be that if you are at the gym and you see someone that has a body that's cut,
Mhm,
stay out of the gym if you know that that's your trigger. I'm just making it plain because that's how it is. It's not nothing really like, I can't paint this picture that it's going to be something like, oh, it's not like that. A trigger
mhm,
could be something simple. If you know that going to the club and listening to some music and having a cocktail is a trigger for you to loosen up and be social and start talking to women, you don't need to be at the club.
mhm,
Okay. That is a trigger for you and you have to stay away from it. That is when when you are eradicating the old behavior, you have to do new behaviors, meaning you stay away from the things that were triggers for you
mhm,
and you do new things. And that new thing, you set boundaries. That
mhm,
new thing may be, okay, me and my husband, we're gonna start traveling together. We're gonna spend time together. We're gonna enjoy one another. Or me and my wife, if they have an event at my friend's house, I'm gonna take my wife with me from now on.
mhm,
So you don't have no worries about being tempted into because you're changing, you coming from the old behavior and making new behaviors.
mhm, mhm, mhm. Exactly. Exactly. I'm trying to find
Mm-hmm.
that, but I'm not seeing it right now. But anyway, and then the next thing we talked about, you need to have individual goals. Not what's your individual goal for yourself. We haven't even talked as a couple yet. We're just saying you going in because your mate told you that they don't want to go. You get your help first, then we come in later. But you need to have individual goals. What are your goals, to make your marriage work? Maybe one of your
Mm-hmm.
is that you're going to be responsible for calling your mate at a certain time, especially
Yes.
if you're late.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to communicate that to her, but I'm going to set that as a goal.
Exactly.
I'm going to set that as
Exactly.
late, let her know where I'm at and
Mm-hmm.
expect to be in. So you need to have
Correct.
individual goals, individual
Mm-hmm.
that I'm going to spend more family time, individual
Mm-hmm.
that me and my wife going to have that special date, just her and I were going out.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have these goals.
Mm-hmm.
Said Pam, you going and somebody said, well, that's too much, and can't they just take
No.
their? You can forget
Mm-mm.
that. You
Mm-mm.
like when you gonna get over it. No, when you gonna get transformed. Let's just
Yeah,
break it down.
that is the sole aspect of the awakening stage. When
Mhm,
you are awakening and rebuilding the
mhm,
trust within your relationship, you have to do those things. If you really love this person and you want to stay there in your marriage, you will call, hey, I'm running late. I'm getting ready to go to the store and get some mayonnaise. I'm gonna be home after I get the mayonnaise.
Mm-hmm.
That's, you're gonna do what it takes.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the bottom line. You'll do
Mm-hmm.
what it takes, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not anybody being like, oh, they watching me, or they do. It's not that. When you love and you truly love, it's worth everything to you to make that relationship work if you're
Mm-hmm.
going to stay there in the
Yeah.
marriage.
And someone says you can't use your mate as a shield. I hope I'm saying it right. You must be
Mhm.
committed to the transformation, and that is
That's
so.
it.
And
That's
transform
it.
is transformation, transformation with a willing
With
spirit.
a willing spirit.
Have
That's right.
have to. And
Hmm.
this is what you're saying is I'm going to make this transformation because the person who I had the relationship outside the marriage is not worth
Hmm. It's
all
not worth it.
all the love and the investment that my family I have.
Hmm.
My family look at me uh,
Hmm.
as look at me to fulfill my role. They
Hmm.
love, and I just, it's not worth it. You have to keep it,
Yeah.
because Pam, I personally know somebody who was in an affair, and they lost their wife because she couldn't trust them. The children still love them and stuff, but you can
Mhm.
hear in their voice their longing that they miss the wholeness of the family.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, it's devastating on the kids. It's not just the couple, it's
mhm,
on the kids as well.
mhm, mhm.
Mhm.
It, your family must be
You're
priority.
right.
So
Yes.
let's go on to the person who was cheated on. Now, this is the healing process. Now, I hope everybody take understand what I'm saying is the person
Mhm.
who was cheated
Cheated
on,
on.
yes, they
Mhm.
go through a healing process.
Yes.
The person who cheated has to go through a transformation process.
Mhm.
They have
Mhm.
to change, or those would be continuous patterns taking place.
Correct. Mhm.
Let's talk about that. And we talked about, remember we talked about last week, which is really good, is that we have to find out what stage of the grieving process are they currently in.
Yes.
And go ahead and
Mhm.
talk about that, and then I'll, you know.
Yes. So when the cheating takes place, you kind of bounce around a few of those stages. At first, you might get a little bit of evidence that something is not right, but you're quite not sure. Or you may say, okay, something, I see this, but you may be still kind of in denial about whatever is taking place. Then you may, because what happens with infidelity is when you are the person that's being cheated on, sometimes, not all the time, sometimes the person may think there's something wrong with them. Oh, maybe if I would have, like I said in one session, cooked more times a week, or maybe if I'd have dressed up more, or maybe if I would have did this, for this person, or did everything this person said, that has nothing to do with someone deciding to step outside of the relationship. So you may bounce in between those stages as the incident has occurred and you're healing.
Mhm.
Now, one stage you may stay stuck in if you don't pay attention and watch is the depression and the anger stage. I
Mhm.
know for me, I can be candid and transparent. When I went through experiencing infidelity, I was angry. When I tell you I was angry, I was so angry, and I was not nice, to my ex-husband. Meaning, like, no, I'm not saying I was mean, like breaking stuff, nothing like that. I don't believe in violence or anything like that. But what I mean is that it would be some days that I wouldn't even have any conversation with him. I didn't feel like he deserved for me to even talk to him because he disgusts me to be able to do something like that. And so you may bounce in between those different stages. Now, today, I wish him the best and we are cordial and I have nothing against him and it's water under the bridge. But in the midst of that infidelity, I was like, don't touch me, don't say anything to me. Because you have to be able to have that time to back away from the situation and process what stage you are really in. Now, you're not going to sit and say, okay, right now I'm in the depression stage. You're not thinking like that. You're in survival mode. When the infidelity has occurred, you're surviving and you're trying to figure out, okay, I got to still take care of the kids. I got to still go to work. Okay. And I was in college. I was in working full time. had little kids, and I was in college full time. So I had to still
Oh,
balance all of that. I had to still function and balance all of that, while, that in the back of my mind that, okay, I'm going through this.
mhm,
So you have to do whatever you think is the best for you. But for me, I had to think about my girls. My daughters were important, so I had to keep it together.
mhm.
I couldn't like let stuff fall by the wayside. I had to keep that momentum up so it wouldn't shake and rock them, too much. And so, you're gonna grieve, but you have to figure out what you can do to make it through, to make sure that your kids can still, thrive and go to school and not worry about you.
And Pamela, you said something very much. Sometimes people wonder if I cook a certain way, that'll make them change. Watch this. If I wear the right perfume,
Yeah.
if I, wear the right clothing, all that. Listen to me very carefully. That will not change
Mm-mm.
your person
Mm-mm.
identity. If they have
No.
those trees inside of that, those that don't move a tree at all.
Mm-mm.
They have to go
Mm-mm.
in there and they got to whack those trees and bring them from
Mm-hmm.
the roots. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and then you said, and then somebody said you have to discern if that person's a serial, and that's deep cheater, and that's very
Mm-mm.
important because you have that
Mm-mm.
dating process, and you go into the inner court. Now we're just talking about somebody who does it perpetually. Okay,
I mean,
this is what
yeah.
we talk, and
Every
right
corner they turn.
you were dating any time in that phase or in the court and they were fooling around on you, if they had if
Mm-hmm.
they were that bold to do that, then it'd make it
Mm-hmm.
very easy for them to do that in your marriage. So those are signs right there. So you listen to me carefully.
Yes.
If somebody right now that's listening to the sound of my voice, if you're in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship and that person have cheated on you, and consistently, or cheat on you one time or whatever, then you really need to think about it. You really, and don't say I'm too far in it. No, you're not too far in it. Look, I always like to say this: I'd rather be disappointed now than hurt later. And so you
Mm-hmm.
right before you say I do, you should think about, because you have that
Think
right.
about it.
You have that right to get
Mm-hmm.
out of that relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Just is very important. Um,
Mm-hmm.
then we talked about, Pamela, for the healing process, is that the person has to look at the different triggers. What are the triggers?
Yes.
Listen to me carefully. Recognize, and this is what came to me today, and this is really, and I'm not trying to belittle it. So listen to what I'm saying. Recognize your triggers, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Guys come together as a couple or whatever. You're going to talk about the different triggers that bother you, but this is talking about
Yes.
individual. This is talking about individually. Recognize your triggers. Now, but when you recognize your triggers, do not let them control you. Everybody follow me now?
Mm-hmm.
Your
Mm-hmm.
Don't let them control you, because
Mm-hmm.
say for instance this relationship did not work, and you get
Mm-hmm.
it with somebody else who's faithful, never did anything wrong, and they
Mm-hmm.
do one thing wrong, and it sparks a trigger, then you allow
Mm-hmm.
that trigger to control you. So you have to
Mm-hmm.
know that is so important. You have to recognize the triggers are
Mm-hmm.
important. Don't get me wrong, but
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
to you that you become frantic, you become,
Yeah.
and
Paranoid.
that,
Mm-hmm.
that person love you and they're faithful. So
Yes.
address that, and really if you're doing all that, then you don't
Mm-hmm.
into another relationship. You really need to go through this don't
Yeah. You're not ready.
go through the
You're
healing.
not ready.
We're talking
Yeah.
the healing process.
Mm-hmm.
Healing process before you even decide to go into another relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And don't think all men's and all
Are
women.
cheaters.
They're
They're
not.
not. Mm-mm.
They are not.
Mm-mm. They're
So
not.
don't let your triggers, find the triggers, and then when you come together as one,
Mm-hmm.
tell this person this is what my trigger is. They'll,
Mm-hmm.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
But don't let, I'm saying again, don't let those triggers dictate to you, because then they will.
Mm-hmm. So let me say this really quickly. Usually, like if you properly go, so you'll always be healing, because I don't know how to explain it. You're just going to continue to keep healing and learning things about yourself. Once that trauma has occurred, that happened to you. Your body, learns to heal in certain places, but it's happened to you. And how a trigger will get you back off track again is if you jump into a relationship too quick and something happens, and it catch you off guard, you're not quite ready. So it's still some residue there. That's why you have to really wait until you get into a certain stage of your healing process to be able to get back out there and be ready to date.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You
Mm-hmm.
may say, how would I know that, Pam? Well, you're going to know because little things are going to get on your nerves, or you
Mm-hmm.
may be moody, or you may panic, and you see one thing, you may think it's one thing and it's really not. You start creating stories in your mind because you haven't fully healed. Another thing is you can be in a stage of your healing process where you're ready and you're healthy, although you're still healing, but you may get into a relationship with someone and they may be a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to bring that trigger back up to you. And you have to step back and say, okay, why am I feeling like this in my stomach?
Mm-hmm.
Or why is this thought in my head that I got to kind of like second guess this person or question it? Because it's something about that person that your body is alarming to you. Hey, it's a red flag with this person. Something is not right with them. They probably not the right person you should be in a relationship with. So pay attention to your body, because your body is going to be your alarm system to let you know that something is not right.
Okay. Well,
Trust yourself.
somebody just said, and I am in agreement with their. Some people, someone said, I am completely healed, and there are some people who are completely healed, and they don't do the trigger. So are we saying that's going to be everybody still continue to go through a healing process? Because a lot of people don't go through healing. They once they heal, they're healed. And I think we may have to say it that way. When people apply the word of God, and when God
Mhm.
really, and I'm just going to break that down. When people go through this and God, and they apply the word. Now this is just
Mhm.
talking about somebody, a Christian. When they apply that word and God completely delivered them, then they're free and
Mhm.
they're on.
Mhm.
There are a lot
Mhm.
of people who are still, they still are going, what Pamela's saying, they're still going through that healing process
Yeah.
to take place.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and your healing is your healing, and I totally am happy for you. You can be healed to a certain extent to where if you see that person call you, you can roll over and go to sleep, and you won't even worry about answering it. You can see that person with another woman or another man, and you can wish them well. That is what when you can say you're healed from that person. When trauma has occurred, there are certain things about you that's going to be still healing. You're going to
Mhm.
be still healing and trying, because I don't feel like you can always get back to your 100% of your natural self, because something has happened to you. Life has happened. Trauma has happened. So that's what I mean by you'll be still healing, but you may be healed from that person in that situation, because when you see them with someone, or if you see them and they no longer affect you, then yeah, you've gotten past them, and you're able to move on. I
Mhm.
hope that makes sense.
Mhm. Okay. What, and here's the next one. What is it about when this is just for the healing process? I
Mhm.
the person who was cheated on. What is it about that person that want to make you try to make it work?
That's a good question. Are you
Mhm.
wanting me to jump into that, or
No,
you want to go for it?
I just, that's what I would do in the therapeutic process. What is,
Mhm.
they come and say, what is it about that person want to make me want to try, and have them list the things, uh,
Mhm.
and then look at it, look at that and weigh it
Mhm.
on the other side, the infidelity relationship, what was taken away, where did
Mhm.
cause a fragment in the marriage, and so forth.
Mhm.
But I think that's a real good question. What is it about that person that want to make me
Mhm.
cry?
Mhm.
That is, and I've seen that before. I've had couples,
Yeah.
and they said, I want to try because I really love that person. And I got
Mhm.
into an unhealthy spot in my life that caused me to get involved.
Mhm.
And when that person tell you that I recognize I did wrong, the
Yes.
third party is not involved anymore, and I don't want to lose this person, because watch this, I
Mhm.
cannot live without her, or I cannot live without him.
Mhm.
We got something to work on. Everybody,
Yes.
and I've seen marriages where they stayed in there, and it's just beautiful.
It's beautiful, and I'm so happy for them too. Yes.
Mhm.
It's beautiful.
But a lot of people, it doesn't work like that, because that person,
Mhm.
somebody said it perfect, because that person's a serial cheater.
Mhm.
And how
A, I call it a Peter Pan.
see, not, and we're not talking about
You
Peter.
don't never want to. You don't want to. They don't never want to grow up.
Mm-hmm.
Just no responsibility at all. I
Mm-hmm.
ain't gonna go too deep into that. But anyways, yeah, that
Mm-hmm.
serial cheater, yeah, slash Peter Pan.
Mm-hmm. And then we talked about the acceptance, and you might want to write this down. Acceptance opened the door to forgiveness. And
Mm-hmm.
that does not mean that you agreed what happened,
Mm-hmm.
but you accept what happened. And when
Exactly.
you accept,
Mm-hmm.
I never forget my friend had told that, then you walk and open the door to forgiveness. And
Yes.
forgiveness is the biggest part of the healing process because, and watch this, the forgiveness is not so much for the other person, but the forgiveness for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it says, what is this? What did I didn't see that right there? What does it say?
It says, it said, I don't know what is it Mahan? I'm not sure what they're trying to say. God is set free is, oh man, I'm not sure what they're trying to say. I'm sorry. God is set free is free indeed.
Oh, who the son said, uh-huh, mm-hmm,
Yeah.
mm-hmm, mm.
Yeah.
So that the forgiveness is also important. And then the
Yeah.
communication is,
Oh
uh-huh.
God, that's right.
I know who it is. That's how I always tell her that line. Who the son said,
Yeah, when you say forgiveness, I think that forgiveness have to also start early on too, because if you don't have some sort of forgiveness, it's kind of hard to move forward, you know.
yeah, you
Yeah,
never forgive people in the past. How you gonna forgive that?
yeah,
If you find difficult find it difficult to forgive, period, how
mhm,
are you going to forgive if infidelity taken them in the
yeah.
relationship?
Oh, it's hard.
So you have to
Infidelity is hard.
have seeds. Watch this. You have to have seeds of forgiveness already inside of you.
Yes, you have to, and I think walking in love helps you to forgive too, Cheryl.
Does
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
does. And then we talked about the communication individually for the
Hmm.
healing process. You have to write things down. What do you want to communicate to that person? What you talked about
Hmm.
earlier, how it made
Hmm.
you feel,
Hmm.
communicating
Who it was.
all that,
Yeah. What
I, and
happened.
how I expect
Hmm.
it to be different. You got to communicate. In other words, you can't sugarcoat anything anymore. You got to
No,
tell
you
us
cannot
like it is.
hide.
Can't hide and butter it up. Well, I
Mhm.
know you didn't mean that or whatever. No, you did it.
Mhm.
Well, let's get this clear. You're gonna have to be straight.
Yeah, you gotta be straightforward. It's gonna be painful for the person to hear what their, spouse or, their spouse have to say, but it's worth it.
Mm-hmm. And then address the emotions and thoughts attached to the infidelities. Somebody write that down.
Mhm.
Address the emotions
Mhm.
attached to the infidelity.
Mhm.
Keep in mind the emotions
Mhm.
behind you. You're supposed to tame your thoughts because your thoughts will create an emotion movie that's like a box office hit. Then your emotions will
Mhm.
follow. So you have to address those emotions and thoughts and attach to the
Mhm.
infidelity that it won't consume you because it can consume you so much that you can't focus on other things in your life.
I mean, it will swallow you if you
Mm-hmm.
don't take it. And one thing I want to say really quickly is make sure you are aware of your attachment style, because if you don't pay attention to your own attachment style, you will meet another person just like the one you broke up with. There will be just a different face and a different name. So you have to be very careful about what it is about you that feel like you have to gravitate towards a woman or a man that's a cheater, and what is it about you that make you feel like you have to stay there and you deserve it. I'm not talking about the couples that got it together and they made it worked out and they made it work. That's beautiful. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about when you are with a serial cheater and they're not changing, but you just stand in that relationship and dealing with it and deal with it. What is it about you that's making you feel like you don't deserve better?
It's their identity. They have to renovate their identity because their identity is what's going to attract that person to, that they're attracted,
Mhm.
that person attracted them. So they have to look at your identity. And
Mhm.
then again, people like to live from the outside in rather than from the inside out, but the inside out is going to tell the whole story. It's that story, and the display is just the byproduct of the story that is on the inside. So you have to really work on both angles. Have to work on the inside, and then we
Mhm.
talk, we talked about the goals of the individual. What are your individual goals?
Mhm.
So the person's been cheated on. Now you're gonna have you some goals. And you have to, one goal is setting boundaries to go, and you have to stand by those goals, and work them. And then it comes in as a couple that we're going to work through that. Well, I know we gave you guys a whole lot,
That
but
was a lot.
it was a
It
lot.
was tight but right.
Mhm. And but you but you're gonna have to play it over again and listen to part one and part two. Um,
Mhm.
we will not be having the authentic podcast on next week because it's somebody on the scene right now birthday. And so everybody give a little shout out, say happy birthday to her, and
Thank you, everyone.
try to pray what the next may be. And we're not saying that we ended,
Yes,
because if we get instruction to continue on, then we'll do as such.
that's right.
But I hope this,
Mhm.
everyone, please share,
Yeah,
share an authentic talk family. Always remember that we're always praying for you, and it about any. We don't want to ever excuse anybody about the therapeutic part.
no, I want to say thank you, Facebook. First Lady posted her Fireproof 7 event on October the 7th and 8th. It's a Fireproof 7 women's conference in Bakersfield, California at Greater Harvest Christian Center on October the 7th and 8th. If you guys would like to attend that, please go to her page, Vicky Kemp on Facebook for the details. Again, October 7th and 8th. In regards to to therapy, if you are in need of therapy and you have private insurance, you're welcome. Please contact your member service to get a list of therapist names. You can go on platforms Psychology Today and Black Therapy for Black Girls. There are other platforms out there. Me personally, I don't know about those platforms, but you are welcome to look on there. And how they normally have it is they'll have that therapist profile, and you can kind of read on what services that therapists offer in your area. Yeah.
I hope if this was helpful to someone, and I feel in the audience that somebody is really hurting.
Yes.
You just, this too shall pass.
Mm-hmm.
Go to bed, wake up. Go to bed, and wake up. Go to bed. One day, you can turn around. Fall. Vision.
Yes.
And the person that when you make a decision to change, and you want to stay in and do that transformation, what's in the past is in the past, and you're just gonna have to let it go, move on, because your family needs you. Your past cannot determine either. Your past and your future don't communicate with each other.
No.
Your future move forward, and so, and you just go. It was an experience. You learn from the experience, and you just move on. So we want to tell everybody good night, and we appreciate you, and we will post the day that will be in, and family getting birthday loves right now.
I see it. Whoop, whoop. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. I'm definitely going to thank you so much. I'm definitely going to enjoy my birthday. It's a special day for me.
You're going somewhere. I'm gonna find out. Let everybody know. I'm just playing. All right.
Thank you so much. See you guys. Bye, Facebook and YouTube. We appreciate you guys for joining us.
Somebody said, for inspiration while you are healing this, look outside.
The sun. Continue to rise.
And with growth,
this shall pass, and it will. And don't forget to love yourself. Love on yourself. Show yourself some grace, but it will pass.
Don't let betrayal get the upper hand of you.
No,
I will not. You have to resist, and I said, I will.
You refuse. Yes. Yeah, look at me. I wouldn't be here, but I had to go through it, and I'm thriving, and I'm moving forward. And so you get up and you brush yourself off, wipe those tears, and you keep going and just continue to work on yourself.
All right. Good night, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.